Hello everybody, this is Bob Kimball. I'm an artist from Las Vegas, Nevada. And like I promised, even though the promise came late, I finally made a video and I hope you will like it. This video will be the first of many and I hope you learn a lot from it. If you have any questions, I will welcome the questions you might have. So let's get started. And I'll start with the color palette. And from left to the right, the colors are raw umber, sap green, green gold, dark blue, primary yellow, and titanium white. And that's not to say, of course, that you have to use the same colors I'm using, because everybody's got their different brands that they want to use, and different brands come in different colors and different names of colors. So these are only the colors I'm using. It's just a suggestion. If you have golden brand colors, you can use those, or you can use your own. Okay, so the first thing I'm doing is filling in the sky with dark blue and white. And the dark blue that I'm using is Anthraquinone Blue. It's always hard to pronounce that. But that's and it's mostly white with a tiny bit of dark blue in it. And I'm just getting the sky there in that area, and now I'm doing the river down here. I usually like to do the river and the sky. If the river is reflecting the sky color, then I want to paint them both at, about the same time, because I want to make sure that I get the same color reflected in the river as what's in the sky. And whatever else is going to reflect into the river, that can go later, like the trees and things like that. Okay, right here I'm adding darks and lights. Well, lights right now, but I just don't want it to be one color blob of a river, and the clouds up in the top too. Because the more lights and darks you have in a certain scene, the more interesting it looks. You don't want it to just be kind of bland with one or two colors or one or two values. See, at this point here, I'm putting in the lighter colors, the ones that are more reaching out for the sunlight. What I'm doing is going from dark to light, so I put in all the dark greens first, and then now I'm putting in the lighter greens, but also in there I'm going to put in medium greens. It's good to go from dark to medium to light like that, but Sometimes I just don't feel like doing it that way. Sometimes I'd rather go right to the highlights and then put in the mediums after. But as long as you put the darks in first, the dark shadows in first, that's the main thing. I don't normally have a plan. I don't normally have a certain plan when I start a painting. I just have an idea of what I want it to look like. And then everything after that happens kind of organically, to where it just comes together. And then I make my little decisions throughout the painting, here and there, in order, to just basically make it up as I go along. So I have a plan of what I want it to look like, but I'm still making it up as I go along, even with the plan, if that makes any sense. Oh, by the way, I'm using round brushes. They're very small. Most of them are very small, but they come to a real sharp point. So the reason I like round brushes so much, and it's pretty much all I use. Sometimes I use a flat brush, but normally they're round brushes that I use. And the reason I like them so much is because you can use the fine point, the very sharp point in the beginning, or you can use the side of it. You can make blunt marks, or you can make very sharp marks, brush strokes I should say, or you can make very broad strokes by using the side of the brush too, if you want to cover large areas, or if you want to dry brush over a certain area, which is kind of a glaze in a way, but you can dry brush over a certain area in order to get certain effects. And I'll show you that in another video. What I have over the what I have behind the rock is a beanbag, and it's actually made for a mouse, to rest your hand on to use a mouse. But I repurposed it to make to put rocks on it so that it can steady the rock as I'm painting it. And underneath that is a wooden board that I painted black. And I have that on a small Lazy Susan kind of thing so that I can turn the rock around as I'm painting the sides. I can turn the rock around without having to crank my neck around and try to look on the sides and stand up and look and paint and all that. This way here I can just swivel it in any direction I want to, even upside down or whatever, in order to paint the sides. So that makes it easier to do that. You might notice that when I'm putting down some of the raw umber there on the side, and I think I mixed a raw umber with Sap Green, but I'm painting on the side there, and rubbing it with my fingers a little bit, and that's to soften the area that I just painted. So, because I just want to blend in the shadows over the water without it looking like shadow water, you know. I want it to gradually go shadow to water to make it a soft little blend there. Now I'm putting in some midtones. Because it's just too dark on the sides there, so I'm dabbing in some midtones in the trees. A little more yellow. I want to show some highlights there in the trees too, and on the sides. Also, when I'm putting on one color over the other, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm blocking out the color beneath it. Sometimes I'm just using a little bit of color to cover over the other color, the darker color, so that the darker color still shows through a little bit. And then other times, like what I just did there, I just used a lot more color on it because I want it to be more. But at times I don't want it to be so blatantly yellow or bright yellow green, then I'll use less paint in a certain area so that it doesn't look so bright. Because some parts I want to be darker, some parts I want to be lighter, of course. So I'll vary the amount of paint that's on the brush in order to do that. Now I'm putting in pretty much the lightest highlights, so that it pops. So first I started out with dark, then I went to more mediums, a little lighter than medium, and then very light. And now at this point, now that the larger areas are done, now I'm analyzing as I go and painting in the highlights where I think it needs them, I'm turning it around to see what it needs. You know, does it need more yellow here? Does it need more green there? You know, so now it's more of an analyzing stage of the painting. So as it goes, it gets more and more tedious. But that's the part I like. I like the tedious part more. The details. So now it's about time for some sunshine. So I'm going to put the shadows on the ridges of the waves, of the very slight waves, more like ripples. And then the white on top of those. So now I'm beginning to work on the reflection of the sun, where the sun's going to be above that, above the trees, like right there, right there. And the reflection can be a little tricky because, especially when it's on a rock, which is a curved surface. So you really have to watch how straight you're going down with it, because you can think you're going down straight when you're painting a rock. You can think you're going down straight, and actually it might be going to the right or left a little too much. So you have to kind of get back and look at it a little bit. I might have to adjust this, because it looks like it's a little too far right. I might have to adjust it to the left a little bit and put some more white to the left. I think next time I might put a white paper or white cloth over the beanbag so that you can see the difference between the beanbag and the rock. It's a little camouflaged in there. Okay, now I'm starting to put trees in using Sap Green and raw Umber mixed. You can use whatever you want, but you know, any kind of dark brown or dark gray or whatever. And I'm using a thinner brush, a much thinner brush, and not worrying about making long straight lines. I don't really like to do that when it comes to trees. I like them being a little rougher looking, and so I'm gonna, you know, I'm making them to where they're more rugged. And because if you're gonna make a long straight line, then it's gonna look too smooth and too fake. Okay, now I'm putting the edges on the sides of the river to define them more, and it creates a shadow underneath the plants so that it looks more 3D that way, to make it look like the plants are over the river. And the same on the left side. I'll do that too. Okay, now I'm going to add one more color to the mix, Indian yellow. And that's because I want to make it, I want to add a little bit of warmth to it. So I'm going to put this kind of in the middle off to the side, off to the right. Not that it really has to be there, and maybe a little bit more in a couple other places. Just to add a little more warmth to it. It's nice to have warm and cool colors in a painting because it adds contrast. Warm contrasts with cool colors. So right away you can see it get a little more natural looking. Just the addition of a little bit of tint like that in certain areas can really make a difference. So at this point, I would call it just about done. Little dab here of this and that. There's my signature. And that's it. So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and there will be more very, very soon. Thank you for watching.